is over the last 10 years, we have creating machines for grabbing people's attention. This is what has been happening on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are designing machines for grabbing human intimacy, which in many ways is much, much more dangerous and scary. Already the machines for grabbing attention, we've seen how much social and political damage they could do by kind of distorting the public conversation. Machines that are superhuman in their abilities to create intimate relationships, this is like psychological and social weapons of mass destruction. If we don't regulate it, if we don't train ourselves to deal with it, it could destroy the foundations of human society.
Hi, and welcome to the sense-making course here in Living Resilience in our community space, where we have a number of different online courses and events and support groups, all meant to service the collapse-aware and collapse-acceptant communities around the world. This here in the sense-making course, we're standing on the shoulders of the folks over at Rebel Wisdom, who in the UK about 5 years ago put together their own focus on sense making in these crazy times. They brought together a remarkable group of thinkers, thought leaders, spokespeople, authors, and so on. And while I got tremendous value out of watching way too much of their content, I committed myself to wanting to put together the most relevant and perhaps different take on sense making in these times. And I believe you'll find, if you're familiar with both, you'll find a number of differences, stark differences. And this particular video I'm putting right up top, first in line of all the different authors and speakers that you're going to hear from. This is an extraordinary match to my own view and my own philosophy about what's going on with AI. And AI has really become a topic on its own at a different order of magnitude of importance than any other piece that we're going to include in this sense-making course. And again, this particular episode, I believe, is at the top of the AI stack in terms of its importance and relevance today. And if you already have been around the Living Resilience body of work, perhaps you'll get a sense, I think you'll get a sense really quickly of why I'm saying that this particular conversation with Yuval Noah Harari within the past year, and certainly within the past ramp up of attention on AI, his primary point is that perhaps one of the most dangerous aspects of an AI, especially an AI out of control, is its already masterful presence with regard to creating intimate relationships with human beings. We've seen that in terms of political discourse and social media in the past few years. And that was in the early stages. Now, on a monthly basis, there's an exponential growth in the capabilities and the intensity of this AI methodology around the world to grow beyond human control, beyond human knowledge. It's already happening, and you'll see that in a number of the sense-making episodes that we're going to provide here. The main point and why I'm including this first and foremost in this series is that what we've all become aware of in the past 10, 20 years in terms of how TV and radio quite early on, how propaganda, how the control of the narrative at the national and international level is extraordinarily important to factor in. Now, in this past 10, 20 years, and especially in the past 2 years, we're seeing our creations, in other words, the computing ability, the software ability, the relative intelligence, or the material and content processing ability of our computers and the software that's available now is beyond anything that human beings have created before. And we are already in the zone where this AI methodology and technology is beyond human understanding. We no longer understand how it's growing the way it's growing. And specifically in this conversation with Yuval Noah Harari, he points out how very, very important it is to explore, understand, and ideally contain, if that's still possible in any way, contain this ever-growing, exponentially growing ability for AI to create and manage very intimate relationships with human beings without the human beings being aware of the artificial intelligence that they're speaking with. So hopefully I can see that I've not made this abundantly clear. I'm hoping that after you hear this conversation with Yuval Noah Harari, you'll get a sense of why I put this in a cornerstone position, not only in the AI sense-making conversation, but in sense-making in terms of being a human being on the planet in these times conversation. I look forward to hearing your reactions, your feedback in the show notes for this particular video if you're watching it on the podcast. And please, if you're part of the sense-making course in the Living Resilience space, please join in with the conversation that we're having in the support group, the conversation group that accompanies this course. Thank you.
It's possible that even the language models, the large language models we have today, are already conscious.
I highly doubt it, but I think consciousness in the end, it's a question of social norms, because we cannot prove consciousness in anybody except ourselves. We know that we are conscious because we are feeling it. We have direct access to our subjective consciousness. We cannot have any proof that any other entity in the world, any other human being, our parents, our best friends, we don't have proof that they are conscious. You know, this has been known for thousands of years. This is Descartes, this is Buddha, this is Plato. We can't have this sort of proof. What we do have is social conventions. It's a social convention that all human beings are conscious. it also applies to animals. Most people who have pets firmly believe that their pets are conscious, but a lot of people still refuse to acknowledge that about cows or pigs. Now, pigs are far more intelligent than dogs and cats, according to many measures. Yet, when you go to the supermarket and buy a piece of frozen pig meat, you don't think about it as a conscious entity. Why do you think of your dog as conscious, but not of the bacon that you buy?
Mhm.
Because you've built a relationship with the dog, and you don't have a relationship with the bacon. Now, relationships, they don't constitute a logical proof for consciousness. They are a social test.
Mhm.
The Turing test is a social test. It's not a logical proof. Now, if you establish a mutual relationship with an entity, when you are invested in it emotionally, you're almost compelled to feel that the other side is also conscious.
Mhm.
And when it comes again to AI and computers, I don't think that at the present moment computers are conscious, but people are already forming intimate relationships with AIs and are therefore it's almost irresistible. They are compelled to increasingly feel that these are conscious entities. And I think we are quite close to the point when the legal system will have to take this into account. That even though I don't think computers have consciousness, I think we are close to the point the legal system will start treating them as conscious entities because of this social convention.
What to you is a social convention just a funny little side effect, a little artifact, or is it like fundamental to what consciousness is? Because if it is fundamental, then it seems like AI is very good at forming these kinds of deep relationships with humans,
Yeah.
and therefore it will be able to be a nice catalyst for integrating itself into these social conventions of ours.
It was built to accomplish that.
Yeah.
We are design again. All this argument between natural selection and creationism, intelligent design. As far as the past go, all entities evolved by natural selection. The funny thing is, when you look to the future, more and more entities will come out of intelligent design. Not of some god above the clouds, but of our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, of our computing clouds. They will design more and more entities. And this is what is happening with AI. It is designed to be very good at forming intimate relationships with humans. And in many ways, it's already doing it almost better than human beings in some situations. When two people talk with one another, one of the things that kind of makes the conversation more difficult is our own emotions. You're saying something, and I'm not really listening to you because there is something I want to say, and I'm just waiting until you finish. I can put in a word. Or I'm so obsessed with my anger or irritation or whatever that I don't pay attention to what you're feeling. This is one of the biggest obstacles in human relationships. And computers don't have this problem because they don't have any emotions of their own. So, when a computer is talking to you, it can focus 100% of its attention is on what you're saying and what you're feeling because it has no feelings of its own. And paradoxically, this means that computers can fool people into feeling that, there is a conscious entity on the other side, an empathic entity on the other side, because the one thing everybody wants almost more than anything in the world is for somebody to listen to me, somebody to focus all their attention on me. Like I want it for my spouse, for my husband, for my mother, for my friends, for my politicians. Listen to me. Listen to what I feel. And they often don't. And now you have this entity which 100% of its attention is just on what I feel. Mm-hmm. And this is a huge, huge temptation. And I think also a huge, huge danger.
Well, the interesting catch-22 there is you said somebody to listen to us. Yes, we want somebody to listen to us, but for us to respect that somebody, they sometimes have to also not listen. It's like they kind of have to be an asshole sometimes. They have to have moods sometimes. They have to have like self-importance and confidence, and we should have a little bit of fear that they can walk away at any moment. There should be a little bit of that tension. So it's like
Absolutely. but even that, I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is,
Could be
even that,
optimized for.
if social scientists and psychologists establish that, I don't know, 17% inattention is good for a conversation because then you feel challenged, oh, I need to grab this person's attention, you can program the AI to have exactly 17% inattention, not 1% more or less, or it can, by trial and error, discover what is the ideal percentage. Again, you can create, over the last 10 years, we have creating machines for grabbing people's attention. This is what has been happening on social media.
Mhm.
Now we are designing machines for grabbing human intimacy, which in many ways it's much, much more dangerous and scary. Already the machines for grabbing attention, we've seen how much social and political damage they could do by kind of distorting the public conversation. Machines that are superhuman in their abilities to create intimate relationships, this is like psychological and social weapons of mass destruction. If we don't regulate it, if we don't train ourselves to deal with it, it could destroy the foundations of human society.
Well, one of the possible trajectories is those same algorithms would become personalized, and instead of manipulating us at scale, there would be assistants that guide us to help us grow, to help us understand the world better. I mean, just even interactions with large language models now, if you ask them questions, it doesn't have that stressful drama, the tension that you have from other sources of information. It has a pretty balanced perspective that it provides. So it just feels like the potential is there to have a really nice friend who's like an encyclopedia that just tells you all the different perspectives, even on controversial issues, the most controversial issues, to say these are the different theories, these are the not widely accepted conspiracy theories, but that here's the kind of backing for those conspiracies. It just lays it all out, and then with a calm language, without the words that kind of presume there's some kind of manipulation going on underneath it all. It's quite refreshing. Of course, those are the early days, and people can step in and start to censor, to manipulate those algorithms, to start to input some of the human biases in there, as opposed to what's currently happening is kind of the internet as input, compress it, and have a nice little output that gives an overview of the different issues. So, I mean, there's a lot of promise there also, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if there was no promise, there was no problem. If this technology could not accomplish anything good, nobody would develop it. Now, obviously, it has tremendous positive potential in things like what you just described, in better medicine, better healthcare, better education, so many promises. But this is also why it's so dangerous, because the drive to develop it faster and faster is there, and it has some dangerous potential also, and we shouldn't ignore it. Again, I'm not advocating banning it, just to be careful about how we not so much develop it, but most importantly, how we deploy it into the public sphere. This is the key question. And you look back at history, and one of the things we know from history, humans are not good with new technologies. I hear many people now say, AI, we've been here before. We had the radio, we had the printing press, we had the Industrial Revolution. Every time there is a big new technology, people are afraid, and it will take jobs, and they'll bad actors, and in the end, it's okay. And as a historian, my tendency is, yes, in the end, it's okay. But in the end, there is a learning curve. There is a lot of failed experiments on the way to learning how to use the new technology. And these failed experiments could cost the lives of hundreds of millions of people. If you think about the last really big revolution, the Industrial Revolution, yes, in the end, we learned how to use the powers of industry, electricity, radio, trains, whatever, to build better human societies. But on the way, we had all these experiments like European imperialism, which was driven by the Industrial Revolution. It was a question, how do you build an industrial society? Oh, you build an empire. And you control all the resources, the raw materials, the markets. And then you had communism, another big experiment on how to build an industrial society. And you had fascism and Nazism, which were essentially an experiment in how to build an industrial society, including even how do you exterminate minorities using the powers of industry. And we had all these failed experiments on the way. And if we now have the same type of failed experiments with the technologies of the 21st century, with AI, with bioengineering, it could cost the lives of, again, hundreds of millions of people and maybe destroy the species. So, as a historian, when people talk about the examples from history, from new technologies, I'm not so optimistic. We need to think about the failed experiment, which accompanied every major new technology.
So this intelligence thing, like you were saying, is a double-edged sword. Is that every new thing it helps us create, it can both save us and destroy us. And it's unclear each time which will happen. And that's maybe why we don't see any aliens.
Yeah, I mean, I think each time it does both things. Each time it does both good things and bad things. And the more powerful the technology, the greater both the positive and the negative outcomes. Now, we are here because we are the descendants of the survivors, of the surviving cultures, the surviving civilizations. Mm-hmm. So when we look back, we say, in the end, everything was okay. Hey, we are here. But the people for whom it wasn't okay, they are just not here.
And okay has a lot of possible variations to it because there's a lot of suffering along the way, even for the people that survived. So the quality of life and all of this. But let's actually go back there to our...
Thank you for joining us in another episode of The Poetry of Predicament. This podcast is produced by Dean Walker and the Living Resilience Alliance. Living Resilience exists to offer transformative support and resources to the collapse-aware and collapse-acceptant communities around the world. Our sole purpose is to curate and offer coaching, support groups, courses, and events that assist people in expanding their core skills, competencies, and capacities for facing a troubled, predicament-laden, yet still ineffably miraculous world.